So when it comes to a dogfight with something that you don't know, you step through a progression of ways to counter that threat. And this would be a threat that no fighter pilot has ever seen before, and it's probably gonna be the most intense dogfight of all time. What's up, my friends? Welcome to the channel. Ryan here. Today we're gonna talk about a scenario that, well, never thought I'd be talking about, to be honest. But if a dogfight were to happen between a UFO and a fighter jet, this video is gonna break down what it would be like, what that actual dogfight would go like, and what the pilot would be thinking as they're going into a scenario where they're going up against an unknown object. Whether this object could shoot them down or not, they don't know. They don't know what the threat is. And so this is gonna be a breakdown of what it would be like to be in the seat in a fighter jet, pulling 9Gs, trying to shoot down an alien spacecraft. It's kind of crazy to hear myself say that, but stay to the end of this video and I'm going to give you the progression of what it would take to actually defeat one of these, how the strategy would go, and what weapons would most likely be used to shoot these things down, what tactics would be used, and what would be the best fighter jet to get the job done in this, let's just say, ET-like scenario. So first of all, when it comes to which fighter jet you would strap yourself into, you would obviously have your choice around the entire world, because this would be an effort of the entire world. Who's seen Independence Day? Who's seen that scene where they're like, hey, hold my beer, watch this. I'm gonna drive myself right into the belly of the beast and destroy this entire spaceship by just kind of winging it and doing what's called a John Wayne, Clint Eastwood style move where he drives up into the middle of that spaceship, and that just happens to be the one weak spot. And then they share that with the entire world, and that becomes the way to take down these massive spaceships. So what jet would you want to be in? Well, at the end of the day, the choice for me is going to be the F-22. Second choice would be the F-35, and there's a lot of reasons why. And the first reason why is because these fifth generation aircraft, they integrate with other aircraft. So you could basically create little mini wingmen that are drones that aren't piloted, that can be controlled from the cockpit of the F-35 and the F-22. And the reason why you're going to want to do that is because, let's talk about the enemy. So Sun Tzu says, know yourself and know the enemy. And when you know the enemy, it only comes with knowing your own limitations and your own strengths, and knowing that the F-22 and the F-35 have the ability to put themselves in a position to basically cloak themselves and disguise themselves, or at least have other aircraft mistaken for them. That gives them the opportunity to fight the threat. And that threat is gonna be pretty dang beefy, if I don't say so myself. So the threat that we're talking about is some sort of an aircraft, some vehicle that can move from 0 to 80,000 feet in 3 seconds. But it also stays still for a significant period of time. So that's what you need to know as a fighter pilot. So if I'm going out the door, I'm getting my briefing from my intel officer, and he or she is like, hey, look, these things are moving incredibly fast, but they stay still. Like in the case with Commander Fravor, when he encountered that drone that was hovering above the ocean, above the T-shaped object, his opportunity to actually shoot that thing down happened when he was intercepting it, and it just stayed still. The only issue is when he was maneuvering around it, reports have said that the object was actually pointing at him, so it was aware. However, if an object is staying still for any period of time, you have the opportunity to shoot it. Now, the weapon that you would use, let's say you're in your F-22 or F-35, you're probably gonna go through a progression of weapons. But ultimately, you're looking for that period of time when that object is in a position to be shot at. Because if it's moving 0 to 80,000 feet, at that point, you're gonna have to call in the big guns. You're gonna have to basically have a weapon, a hypersonic weapon that can reach the speeds of that vehicle. And that's not impossible. You can definitely strap hypersonic weapons onto an F-22 or an F-35. You know, most countries would be using their stealth assets, whatever that the case may be. Russia's gonna try to put up their Su-57, but if you've seen my previous videos, the Su-57 is only as stealthy as an F-18 that is clean, that's not carrying anything on it. So it's really usually not a stealth aircraft. So you're gonna wanna stick with something that's more stealthy. The F-22 is 100,000 times more stealthy than the Su-57. The F-35 is about 1,000 times more stealthy than the Su-57. So that's why I'm going with these Western jets, the F-22 and the F-35. That combined with the fact that they integrate on the battlefield with other wingmen that might not be manned or may be manned, that you could basically put out as decoys. So now we've got the jet, we've got the F-22 or F-35, and now let's talk about the weapons. So the progression that you're gonna use to step through, again, with the target being stationary, is you're gonna wanna think about the AIM-120 AMRAAM. That's gonna be your go-to right off the bat. That's your medium range missile, is what it's classified in the US military as, and that's gonna be your first launch opportunity, your FLO, is with your AIM-120. So you're gonna get that thing off the rail as soon as you get a hostile identification and basically see what that target does. See if they flinch, see if they go into that mode where they go from 0 to 80,000, or maybe for whatever reason, they're not able to detect the AIM-120 being fired at them, but that's gonna be your first option. Once you know these things are hostile, you gotta get that thing off the rail and potentially have your wingmen shoot them as well. So let's say you're in an F-22, you're in a formation of 20 aircraft, one of them is manned, 19 are unmanned. Now you get all 19 or all 20 of them launching those missiles. So you've got 20 AMRAAMs flying at this thing. At least you're gonna have the chance to see what it does. You're gonna have the chance to see if it flinches, if it flexes, if it shoots back. And now you've got the opportunity for that thing to shoot back at one of the 19 that aren't manned. And then you have the option to stay alive. You've basically got 20 lives up there, and you put the other aircraft that aren't manned out in front of you as you do that first launch with your AIM-120. All right, sweet. We've got our AIM-120s off the rail. We've got 20 of them flying towards this UFO. What are the chances that these things are gonna hit? I would say pretty low, depending on whether this thing observes them or not. The thing with the AIM-120 is it does have a volume that it can actually look for. It's got a mini radar built into it that's gonna be looking for that object once you turn around. So you're gonna fire this thing, it's called a fire and forget weapon. You fire it, you turn around, and you let it do the work. Now, depending on the size of the object, that depends on whether it's gonna hit or not, depending on the speed of the object, depending on the maneuvering of the object. Can that object outmaneuver the AIM-120? So that's what you're gonna get. You're gonna get all that data. And having intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance assets tuned in and watching everything from drones to satellites, watching to see what this thing does and what the effectiveness of the AIM-120 is going to give you a lot of information on what you're going to do next. And what would you do next? Well, I'm glad you asked. So once you see what happens with the AIM-120, now your fangs are going to go through the floor, because as a fighter pilot, you know that you're most likely going to get in a within visual range engagement with something that's never been done before. Personally, I could just say from being a fighter pilot, you'd be excited, you'd be happy, you'd be a little bit, I guess, weary, but at the same time, you'd be like, I can't wait for this to happen because it's gonna be epic one way or the other. When you're a fighter pilot going into a dogfight, it's like 2 nights jousting. Even if you're going up against something extraterrestrial, you're going to be bringing your A game, and you're not going to let whatever it is that's different get to you. I mean, whether you're going up against shooting a balloon, shooting an enemy fighter aircraft, for in the West, if we're going up and fighting a Su-57, hey, we're going to be balls to the wall, ready to go, ready to lock in and make things happen. And it'll be no different with some sort of extraterrestrial aircraft should it come to that. So now what you're going to do is you're going to set up your jet in a position to be advantageous when you do get within visual range. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna switch from your medium range missile to your short range missile, which is gonna be the AIM-9X. The beauty of the AIM-9X is it's got a decently long range, and it has the ability to track heat or any other type of variation in the infrared spectrum. So these things don't need to be hot for the AIM-9X to track it. And that's a common misconception with AIM-9s, is that you have to be going up against something that's warm or like a burning afterburner, like a max afterburner. Just wanted to say that. You don't have to be going up against something that's spitting out a massive 20-foot flame behind it for the AIM-9X to track it. And that's why the F-22 is able to shoot down the balloon. They took the warhead out of it, and it was able to take down that Chinese spy balloon, even though the Chinese spy balloon didn't have an afterburner on it. China, do better next time. Build your balloons with afterburners. Come on, you're dead to us. You can do better than that. So now you've got your AIM-9X queued up. Again, you're gonna have your wingman around you, most likely coming in at this object from a 360-degree orientation where the object, whatever it is, shouldn't know which of the aircraft is actually manned. Now, as you get closer, you're gonna be looking for your wingman to start shooting AIM-9Xs, your unmanned wingman to start doing that, and then you're gonna have yours queued up as well. And what you're kind of doing in that F-22 or the F-35 is you're like the quarterback who just kind of sits back, you sit back and wait. You see what the defense is doing. You see what the linebackers are doing. You see what the free safety is doing. Which way are they flinching? Which way are they directing? Maybe an AIM-9 comes off the rail and it's detected last second by this object and it starts to maneuver and move. Now you're gonna be that backup to try to track it, try to keep track of what it's doing while using other air assets. So you're primarily gonna be speaking to AWACS and you're gonna be talking to the AWACS and determining where these objects are going, because potentially they're going into the water, potentially they're going up high, and you're alerting other aircraft around you where they might be transiting to. So it's kind of like you're making your wingmen the primary shooters while you're that calm, cool as a cucumber, collected voice in the sky who's watching and tracking and trying to make sure you don't lose this object, because that's going to be the biggest challenge. Now, as a flight lead, that's who's going to be running the show here in the F-22. What you do is you let your wingmen get the kills. You let your wingmen go out and throw the spears at enemy aircraft, and then you kind of wait and sit back and you keep and conserve your missiles for the game time decision. It's kind of like that mindset when you're in a football game, basketball game, baseball game, where you're like, I want the ball. I don't care what it takes. When the game is on the line, I want the ball. And that's what a solid flight lead, that's what a solid fighter pilot's mindset is gonna be. And when you become a little more experienced as a fighter pilot, that's really what it comes down to, is decision making and kind of risk mitigation. Like, I want to be able to, at the end of the day, prosecute the last missile to protect whatever it is, because I want to be responsible, and I'm going to hold myself responsible. It's kind of the old adage of you can delegate authority, but never delegate responsibility. You always want to be able, at the end of the day, to fire off the last AMRAAM and your dying attempt to protect whatever it is that you're trying to protect, your formation, a point of interest, your country, in this case, the world, whatever the case may be, you want to be the one with the ball. So that's why it's going to be so important to reserve your missiles for the end game. All right, so back to the dogfight. You've taken your shot with that AIM-9X, and let's say that's going to miss as well, or the aircraft that you're going after, the UFO that you're going after, maneuvers and your AIM-9X doesn't track. All right, now what you're going to do is you're going to switch to guns. And honestly, this might be your best way to get a kill, which is counterintuitive to what you might think. Again, you're going to need distractions. You're going to need other aircraft around where that object is going to be honed in and focused on them. So let's say you get one of your wingmen who's unmanned to basically be a decoy. They come in close to that object and they start turning away. Your hopes are that object is going to track the wingman that's turning away, kind of like the Tic Tac object tracked Commander Fravor as he's coming around the circle. We call it the egg in the fighter pilot world, and that's kind of how you fly and fight. You fight in a circular manner. So what you would do is have that wingman come in, turn over top of that object as close as it could get, and then start flying away with the hopes that it's going to get shot at. It's going to start shooting down these unmanned drones. And as it does that, this is a common tactic in air combat maneuvers where you basically use a wingman as a decoy, as a distractor. And the key, if it's a manned wingman, is to get the kill on the enemy as fast as possible. The beauty here is you're going to be able to see how that thing maneuvers. You're going to be able to see how it reacts to your wingman, and that will give you data for follow-on engagements, because obviously there's going to be more of these things, not just one. So as you see it start to track one of your wingmen, what you're going to do is you're going to roll in behind it with 20 Mike, and you're going to put the funnel of your jet over top of it. The funnel is what's used to shoot down enemy aircraft with your 20mm cannon. In the case of the F-22, the F-35 has a 25mm cannon, so a little bit bigger of a round there. But at the end of the day, these rounds are going to be high explosive incendiary, which is beautiful because 1 or 2 hits on these things and you get a massive explosion because there's essentially a mini bomb inside these bullets. Now, if you look at the current whistleblower situation, there's talk that there's pieces and parts of these UFOs in US custody. The beauty is this shows that they can be destroyed, they can be damaged. They're not just entire structures that have completely remained intact. And the fact that we've gotten our hands on them means that these airframes are fragile. You know, they're not completely foolproof. So a nice 20 millimeter going through it is going to do some damage just with the data that we currently have. So at the end of the day, as you can see, this is just a wild scenario. Like honestly, guys, I'm a little blown away that I'm even talking about this, but I felt compelled to make this video because things are progressing very fast. And at the end of the day, at this point, nothing would surprise me, but I want to give you the fighter pilot perspective. And the whistleblower, it's, you know, good on him for coming out and speaking up about something that he feels like he needs to release. But for me, I'm gonna do a follow-on video of what a fighter pilot's reaction would be discovering this program and what we would do prior to coming out to the public, the research we would do, basically the way that we would see these craft and describe them to the public in relation to someone who knows what it's like to dogfight, someone who knows what it's like to fly an aircraft extremely fast. So that perspective I would almost give more credibility to, but at the end of the day, we gotta know how to fight these things. Again, can't believe I'm saying this. If worse turns to worst, and we have to get into a dogfight with an extraterrestrial being. Again, it's wild, but at this point, it's worth talking about. Check out my Patreon, pop over there. I've got dogfight videos. I'll probably throw up a dogfight video on what to do if you encounter a UFO and kind of step through this progression that we just talked about. And then pop over to maxafterburner.co if you want to grab some sweet threads and support the channel that's teaching you how to shoot down extraterrestrial aircraft. Again, best compliment you can give me is just watch another video. It'd mean a lot. Thanks so much for being here. We'll see you on the next video. Most of all, have a great day.